Flores, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank each of you for your service to our veterans, also for your courage in joining us here tonight to share your stories. Dr. Mitchell, as you know, the VA has had several internal investigations now. We've had reviews by the medical inspector. We've had OIG inspections or reviews. We've actually had a couple of high-profile resignations. And so in response to that, the VA has begun to make some changes and take some actions to try to deal with the news that's come out. My question is this: based on what you've seen so far, will any of the changes and activities that the VA has been involved in the last 3 or 4 weeks make a measurable difference in the care for our veterans?
No.
Okay.
Right now, what's happening is that although they've looked into the appointment scheduling, nothing has changed for me. The chain of command that refused to investigate nursing retaliation is still in place. The chain of command that authorized a written counseling for violating a policy and then said they don't have to tell me what policy I violated is still in place. The chain of command that interpreted the 24/7 federal contract to mean that I could be forced to work unlimited scheduled shifts for 2 years without any compensation is still intact. You've only addressed the scheduling issue. You certainly haven't addressed what's happening when you bring all those vets in and you've already got your physicians overloaded.
Okay. That's the answer I was afraid that I was going to get. Dr. Head, I think you passed over something pretty quickly in your testimony. You said that your pay was stopped for a while. Did you say that?
Yes.
Were you ever told why it was stopped? Was it blamed on an administrative error or what?
I was accused of time card fraud, and they said they weren't going to pay me. And when I attained an attorney and showed proof of my presence, they paid me. But it took a number of months to do that, and you know, I interpreted that as clear retaliation. It was a very painful time when that occurred, and they really gave me no clear explanation.
That's truly amazing that the federal government would do something like that. Mr. Michaud asked a question regarding legislative fixes to some of the things we're talking about. Let me ask you this. I mean, is there any legislation that we can do to fix the culture at the VA? I think what each of you have said clearly in your testimony, we have a real cultural issue, a sick culture at the VA. What can we do legislatively to fix that, if anything?
I'll be very brief. You know, I think there has to be some fear of accountability. Currently, evidently, certain individuals feel they can act with impunity, that they either the system is too slow to respond, or maybe it never responds, but they fear they can engage in these activities and know that they have government attorneys to represent them on the taxpayers' dollar to protect them in these legal fights. And sometimes they know they're absolutely wrong, and they have a protracted battle on purpose because they know most individuals can't withstand that type of punishment.
I see. And Mr. Davis, anything you could add to that?
I would re-echo what I said earlier. You have to spread the accountability. It's one thing to have a VA manager go through an initial lawsuit or some sort of just claim of retaliation and be represented by an attorney. But when you see a pattern behaving, just as when we look at people's time cards, if you see people constantly taking Friday off, then you know something's probably wrong. If you see the same VA manager constantly being represented by the General Counsel's office, then at some point you need to less that coverage. Think about it like car insurance. If I keep banging my car into other cars, I'm going to get dropped off the policy. So if the VA official continues to put the agency at risk of litigation and liability, then the coverage should lapse as well in that situation.
Dr. Mitchell?
I would agree with the others on the panel in the interest of time.
And Dr. Matthews, you can go until the light turns red.
Okay. I'll be more mindful. So if I had 2 wishes, the first would be that the data integrity should be there, because once the data is transparent and accurate, you know, our lawmakers can act on it, the veteran service organizations can act on it, the newspapers can report on it. Now, if they just cook up data, there's no way to even find out that there is a problem. So that would be number one. And the second thing, and at least for a short while, to take away that responsibility away from the VA of managing their own data. And the second is, I agree with everybody else about accountability and not having lifetime tenured positions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Matthews. I yield back, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Lerner, it's our understanding the OCS is spending a substantial amount of its time on these whistleblower, on the caseload from the whistleblowers. Can you tell us what Congress can do to help alleviate the amount of time that you're having to spend on that activity so that you can continue to take care of the needs of the VA whistleblowers?
Well, I want to maybe start by answering that question by noting that this committee has been particularly supportive of our work. I want to recognize the staff of the Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee for their work on this issue and their work with our agency. We consider it to be a real partnership, and we're very grateful for this committee's support. We've also received a number of referrals from this committee, and we appreciate your confidence in our ability to work with the employees that your office refers. So that's one thing that's already happening. We are doing everything that we possibly can to address VA cases quickly and thoroughly. We've set up a priority intake system for VA cases. We've reallocated staff to handle VA employee claims. But as the numbers increase, it's very hard to keep up. We were at capacity before the VA cases kind of overtook us. And the total number of cases between disclosures and retaliation cases now exceeds 130. And the number, as I mentioned, continues to increase pretty much daily.
Wow.
We're a tiny agency. We have 120 employees, more or less. We have jurisdiction for 4 statutes, the Hatch Act, the Uniform Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, and we're working now on the demonstration project that this committee provided to us. We also handle disclosures, over 1,200 a year, and this year will be a record with the VA disclosures, and we also handle prohibited personnel practices. So we're stretched pretty thin right now.
Well, please continue to let us know what we could do to be helpful so that we can sort through your current workload as well as the new VA workload that you're having to deal with now.
Thank you.
Dr. Tuchschmidt, one of the things we've talked about is that some whistleblowers have provided some limited patient information, which is allowed through special channels to deal with what they perceive as problems at the VA. When they do this, it's not a violation of HIPAA, but yet
That's right.
These employees are being charged with privacy violations. What can we do about this? How do we get the VA to stop the charges of privacy violations when the whistleblowers go through the proper steps to do this?
So I am aware of one instance where that happened, employee, in my opinion, inappropriately was put on administrative leave while that investigation was being done over concerns that the person took patient information and did violate HIPAA. I can tell you that the leadership at that facility now knows that whistleblowers have a right to have information, can share that information with the OSC, the OIG, with Congress, and it is not a HIPAA violation. We need to do a better job of making sure people across our organization understand this issue clearly. I wish I could say it will never happen again. I think that would certainly be our intention to make sure that people are more aware and more cautious about what they do.
Okay. We'll continue to try to put that message out. So I yield back.